Welcome to the short film show for the Raindance Film Fest YouTube channel. Today we meet Paul Kowalski, author, actor, producer and director of the short Battersea. Enjoy! Welcome to the Raindance YouTube channel. We're here with Paul Kowalski. Yes, thank you. Whose short participated 20th Raindance Film Festival, and it's called Battersea. Could you tell us something about it?
Sure. So my name is Paul Kowalski. I'm the writer-director of Battersea. I also had a small role in the film. Battersea is about a woman, a portrait artist, who's suffering, who's in a tough situation. Her fiancé or her lover dies, and she's stuck in a rut, and she needs to get out of it. And she lives next to Battersea Power Station, which is kind of like a central metaphor for the film. Battersea Power Station is an abandoned building that's been abandoned for about 60 years. And that's sort of the way the film crystallized around this building that I've sort of been obsessed with for a long time. I used to take the train up with my dad to London and pass by this building, and I always thought there was something special about this building. So the film takes place around Battersea Power Station. It's about a woman who's grieving and who manages to break out of that grief and and move on with her life after meeting an electrician, played by me, who I guess metaphorically and literally brings her light in a sense. So that's the basic premise, and as I said, the inspiration was largely kind of started with the building, and also a film by an Italian director called Antonioni, whose first color film was a film called Red Desert, Il Deserto Rosso, I think, right?
Yep, right.
And that stayed in the back of my head, in my subconscious. It was a film I saw in a film class in university, and it's about a woman who sort of goes a bit off the rails also, and a factory is in the background is a large part of the story and sort of plays into her madness, and that was one of the key kind of inspirational films for the short that I made. So
the inspiration came before from the location, and
yeah.
Did you had the chance to get in to visit it several times before writing your short? Or
it's an interesting story. My background is mainly literary. I'm a writer, so it started off as sort of a short story, and then I realized that it was such a visual sort of central metaphor that I started toying with the idea of turning it into a film. And I think, like most shorts, the pre-production was huge, and the actual shooting was only 2 or 3 days. So yeah, the actual start was, I guess, ironically, using Google Maps. And you know, when you can take the little man and put him on the street, and then you see the pictures. And I just kept going around the power station this way, and thinking I can make a pretty interesting short based around the power station. So I picked 3 kind of locations, and one of them was a pub across the street from the power station, which we completely revamped and changed the inside to look like this woman's flat. The other one was kind of around the back of the power station, and that's sort of how I started. I just started taking pictures and going around and sort of trying to weave a story around the building. The final scene does have her sort of entering the power station, because it's such an important thing in her life, and she's sort of almost befriended the power station, anthropomorphized it. And they wanted too much money to shoot inside, and the security was quite strict. So we shot the internal scenes in Crossness pumping plant. I don't know if you know that, you probably don't, but it's basically a sewer pumping plant from the Victorian times in East London by the Thames in Crossness. And it was much cheaper. They gave us 4 hours, and we shot 2 hours of daylight, 2 hours of night. And that ended up working really, really well. So ironically, no, we didn't go inside for budgetary reasons, but it ended up being much, I think, stronger, because they just renovated the central Victorian atrium of this sewer pumping plant, and it's quite beautiful. Typical like Victorian ironwork painting with red and green, and it was just a beautiful metaphor for the end of the film. I don't want to give anything away too much, but it's a short, so who knows if anyone will see it. So yeah. That's kind of how it worked out with that.
As regard the budget, how could you arrange it, or have you got a production? Or
like I said, initially it was something that I purposely thought I want to have everything as simple as possible, so I can do as much as possible myself. Like most shorts, I paid for everything myself, and I think that's an important lesson also for a short film. People who are trying to make a short sometimes can really try and do too many things and use too many locations, and it just stretches the budget and stretches the crew. Whereas I think by kind of calling it Battersea and also focusing on a building, a central location, it makes life a little bit easier. The locations were literally 100 meters away from each other. So in terms of moving and lights and all that, it was far easier to carry out and to succeed. And I think that's generally a good thing for shorts that are self-funded, picking a few locations and doing as much as you can with them. So
what about the crew and the actors? Were they paid or not?
I mean, the actress, again, I kept that as small as possible, so the crew wasn't huge. Everyone worked for expenses. The actress, Maria Aldin, a Swedish actress, was excellent, and she was cast. I played the other role. Again, I might not do that again. It's much easier to focus on one aspect of filmmaking, I think. I've learned my lesson. But yeah, small crew, small cast, talented people working hard who believe in the project. Getting a team behind you and making the actual shoot short and sweet and powerful. That was sort of something I always had in the back of my mind.
Did you write the shorts as well?
Yes, I did.
So you did. You were director, actor, and writer as well, and co-producer maybe.
Producer, pretty much. So, yeah. Again, that's by necessity. I think everyone would love to focus on one aspect of filmmaking and do it as well as possible, but it just wasn't possible. I think for my next one, I'd like to focus on just writing and directing. Which would make life easier. So,
did you write the next one yet?
I've written the next, 10 or 11. It's just a question of getting money and sort of making it how I want to make it. The next one I have in mind is sort of similar. It's based on around a beach house in Norfolk, in the north of, or I guess the east of England, and it's a bit of a psychological thriller. But it's also kind of a principal location that can be sort of mined. To give an atmosphere and a vibe that can really lend itself to a short. So, and several others that I won't go into. But
was this the first shot you direct, or?
Yes, I mean I studied in the States and I made a few kind of more experimental shorts on 16mm film. But that was just more a class I took. I went to quite a liberal arts university, so I did lots of odd subjects from philosophy to astronomy to filmmaking. So I was always interested in film, but I always thought I'd be more a writer. And I think that obviously there's so many crossover points between writing and film. It's just a flick of the switch and trying to think more visually, and to convey thoughts and feelings with images, which is something that I think I learned through this film, because the initial draft was about 30 pages, which is approximately a 20, 30-minute film. And that's what it was. So through the process of sort of starting off as a writer who wrote a short story, full of thoughts and kind of language and focus on words, to eventually making a 10-minute film with that same material, was a huge learning curve, and something that very strictly and strongly made me know the difference between a novel and a film, which is a good tool, I think, because there's a lot of great stories out there in novels, but like I said, it's a different vocabulary. One of my favorite directors is a guy called Kieślowski, a Polish director. He did the Decalogue and the Three Colors. A Polish director who passed away not so long ago, and for him it was a similar thing. He said for the reason he makes films above all is to escape literalism. So it's kind of this thing that you read and you can understand like a poem, but then how to find a different vocabulary to that into film, and that's sort of something that's the most impossible thing for me to do, which is probably why I do it, to take that challenge and to try and learn a new vocabulary and make it visual above all. So that's what I tried to do. I don't know if I succeeded, but I came close, hopefully. That's all I can ask for.
Could you give to young directors or producer or actors any kind of advice or?
Well, I think making a short, the things that I've said are pretty useful. Maybe pick one location, mine it, keep the cast and crew small, work with people that are passionate about the project and who can get something out of it themselves. I guess the advice is not for me to give, it's for masters to give and other people who have done a lot more than me. But from what I've learned this far, just do it, just do it. It's so easy to make a film today. I made mine entirely on a Canon 5D. which is readily available. Even some lesser models are perfectly fine to make a film. Borrow one, buy one, steal one, and make your movie, and just do it. That's the best advice I can give.
What was your experience in Raindance Film Festival?
It was my first film festival, and obviously there was being based in London, it was quite easy to take advantage of as many events and meetings and screenings as possible, which I did. I think I saw, and I should get an award for this, I'm sure it's the record, 47 films in what, the 2 weeks or 10 days or whatever it was. 10 days, you know. Mostly shorts, because that's what I'm interested in at this point in my career, but you know, a few features also. And essentially what I did was I went to the films, and whoever did something that I liked, I wrote down, and I contacted them and I said, listen, I loved your work. I'm making a film. I'd like you to do the sound in it or act in it. And I found 3 or 4 people that probably I'll work with on my next project. So that's one thing. I guess also for me, the festival felt like a summer camp for filmmakers, in the sense that creative types can be quite isolated and alone. You know, when I was writing my film, it was a long period of not having people to bounce ideas off of, and also to collaborate. It's difficult to find people. You know, if you're a writer-director, you may not have a clue about sound or the world of I don't know, of post-production, color correcting. So you go to the internet, and it's a bit hit or miss. You know, you have these websites, you have people who you can kind of look at their CV and stuff, but nothing beats meeting someone in the flesh, having a chat, making a connection, saying, oh, I love that film too, why don't we do something together? And that's what the festival was for me. I met a lot of people that I'll probably work with in the future. And the events too, I mean, they were fun. You know, it was fun to have some wine and meet interesting people and go to these events. So I don't know if that answered your question. What did the festival mean to me? Yeah, above all, meeting people, collaborating with them in the future, and having a good time.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure.
Hope you enjoyed the interview. If you missed the previous one, click here and please subscribe to the channel. And if you got any kind of comment, write below. And if you recently made a short, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.